Councillor Perks.
Thank you, Speaker. Mr. Mayor, on page 19, you have a number of lettered clauses. I'd like to turn your attention to Clause I. City Council direct that all vehicle for hire drivers can be registered to work for one brokerage or communication platform at a time. Does that mean one and only one?
That's what it says.
Okay, so if I'm, for example, there are drivers here who drive for Beck and they currently use the legal Uber application, they can no longer do that. Is that correct?
Well, it says city directs that, and I think that's arising out of a concern that the brokerages had, that there were people that were supposedly available to them that weren't available to them.
No, I understand that helps the brokerages. On the attachment you have, attachment number 2, a vehicle for hire driver, that's a taxi driver, pays an upfront license fee of $130, and if I'm looking at the bottom, second from the bottom, someone who's driving for Uber or a different PTC pays an upfront cost of $15? Yes. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I'm allowed to answer, I think.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, Ms. Cook.
So the next question I have is on page 3.
I'm sorry.
No, Councillor
You don't
Perks.
get to decide when my answer's finished.
Oh, I'm sorry. You have more to say. I didn't understand.
Just to say that math, that at the $15 per driver plus the, I'll call it the corporate fee, Ms. Cook went through all of that math, and that the net effect of that is to impose in total, based on the number of drivers and so on, about $5 million in fees on an Uber-type company, that company of that size, so that, and
I was just trying to understand the cost of entries to different categories of drivers, and now I do. On page 3, now this one's interesting. My understanding from an earlier answer is you're saying that we're going to eliminate the training program requirement for Uber or somebody like that, and it's voluntary. They can train people if they wish. And you think they'll do better. What I'm concerned about with here is on recommendation 51.
Perks, hold on, I'm just put your time on hold. Okay, please, it is very noisy in here. I can't hear, and this is to the staff as well behind the mayor. Please, be respectful. It's hard to hear when the question's being asked and answered. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Speaker. That's quite helpful. On page 3, I'm looking at recommendation 51. Council delete the requirement for limousine owners and driver to complete the initial and refresher training as a condition of licensing effectively immediately. And 52, Council delete the requirement for limousine owners and drivers to complete CPR training and obtain first aid certification as a condition of licensing effectively immediately. So given that these limousine companies don't have the customer feedback thing that Uber says is the tool by which they use to guarantee high-quality drivers, why are you deleting these requirements for limousine owners?
Well, first of all, I think it's a staff recommendation. I want to just make sure it's a
Mr.
staff
Mayor,
recommendation.
you are moving it.
I'm sorry. Again, I have to. I'm happy. You can make your questions as long as you want. It's your time. But you just let me answer without interrupting,
Certainly.
please. That what they're trying to do here is produce consistency between all 3 or more elements of the ground transportation: limo, taxis, and PTC cars. So it's consistency, and it's a staff recommendation.
Okay, thank you. On page 19, Part K. Oh, sorry. Before I do that, I just want to make sure I understand. By accepting the committee recommendations that a person can own multiple plates and that plate owners can incorporate. That's something that you're moving, right? You're supporting. On page 19, further, along the same vein, number K, Council will permit taxi brokers as part of their taxi broker's license to manage taxi cab license to be able to rent it or lease it to a licensed driver on behalf of the owner. So if I understand this, we're going to a system where numbered companies can own a series of taxi plates, and the garage can, on behalf of the owner, license it out, and the owner doesn't have to be a party to that license. Is that what I understand K to do?
It says here that a taxi broker can allow the management of a taxi license and rent or lease it to a licensed driver on behalf of the owner, and it makes mention, as you suggested, of the fact that it could be done. It says here that the broker can designate the individual who is the signing officer of the corporation. It makes no mention of a numbered company.
But the numbered company is referred to elsewhere. So I just want to understand if in your motion and what you're doing, it now becomes possible for someone to own a whole bunch of plates through a numbered company, not actually have any day-to-day management of it, and just allow the broker to lease it out on their behalf. That's the effect of what you've done?
I think that is the effect, yes, of this motion.
Thank you. Councillor Perks to speak.
Thank you, Speaker. I will not be supporting the motions moved by Mayor Tory. In the speech he gave and the answers he gave to various questions, Mayor Tory made much of the fact that new technologies come in and we have to adapt to them, and the markets change, and that's just part of the natural order of things. To some extent, that's correct and true. But one thing that we as a government always have to be aware of is who's benefiting from these changes. That's actually our job. Technology's been changing at an ever-increasing rate for hundreds of years now, and there's been ongoing work by governments, by labor organizations, by community organizations, environmentalists, people advocating for the disability community, and on and on and on, to try to make sure that the benefits that accrue from new technology are distributed fairly, so that we pick carefully who the winners and losers are when a new service comes along. Let's take a look at who wins and who loses under the proposals put forward by the Mayor. Who wins is Uber. That's one who wins. Multi-tens of billions of dollars venture capital company. In other words, people with a lot of money investing their venture capital come into this market, say, we demand you lower your standards, and guess what? Those billionaires get a return on their investment and make more. Who else wins? Well, people who have enough money to buy a bunch of taxi plates and establish a numbered company. They win because, unlike the rules that we have in place today, now they can buy up as many plates as they want and make a profit off the taxi industry. Who doesn't win in the taxi industry? The people who do the work. The people who actually provide the service don't do well in this. They now lose all the protections we had in place in 2014 using the owner-operator model, which our excellent Executive Director of Licensing and Standards described as the most efficient and most fair model. The same person that the Mayor pointed to over and over again as the person with the best advice and the most knowledge wrote on page 3 of this report that the owner-operated model is the fairest and most efficient. But that's gone. People who drive taxis will never again be able to become owners because the plates will be in the hands of a few numbered companies, and the shift drivers will be allocated based on what the garages want to do, and they'll take whatever lease those companies want to have. The limits on the number of hours they can force you to drive, gone. The requirement for the new PTC people, they will not have to have the same safety features in the vehicle that you have right now in a cab. Gone. The work we were doing to try to get employment standards at the province of Ontario for taxi drivers, there's no mention of this in here. Drivers will make less money in a less safe work environment, and people who had money to start with at the beginning to buy up plates or to invest in Uber will make more. That's what we're doing here. That's what the Mayor has done. He's deciding with this motion who benefits from the new technology. Is it the customer who benefits? No, the safety standards in the current model that require drivers to have defensive driving skills, gone. CPR training, gone. The requirement that there be training in conflict resolution, gone. The requirement that people be trained in how to assist passengers with disabilities, gone. The requirement that we train people in how to treat women and minorities in a tolerant and accepting way, gone. All of the things that protect the consumer that are being changed here are being harmonized down. Yes, there's a more level playing field between the millionaires and the billionaires, but for the consumer, the level playing field goes down. The drivers lose, the public lose, the billionaires and the millionaires win. That's how this city has decided to apportion the benefit of new technology. You should be ashamed if you vote for this package.